we do a two-step sales process, which is that first call. We take the pressure off of ourselves to get a deal done. That's why we do a two-step sales process. I think that's really important. I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to be prepared to make an offer or be prepared to get a deal done or negotiate on that first call when we necessarily haven't done all the due diligence we need. And so we do a two-step sales process, the seller script call, and then our offer script call. So let's go ahead and dive into the seller script here. So for me, guys, this is where you qualify the lead. You got to qualify the lead by going through the entire seller script if the seller will let you, okay? And why do I say if the seller will let you? Because there's going to be some unmotivated sellers that are not willing to go and spend that much time with you, okay? And a big part of whether they're going to be willing or not to spend that time with you is the expectations you set up front. So for me, there's 10 talking points in the seller script that I have. The first one is the introduction. For me, this is an opportunity to not only get their information, but to start your due diligence, to make sure that you're having the best call that you can have. So on that introduction, whether it's an inbound or outbound call, will determine kind of how you ask the questions. But for me, I want to get their information right at the beginning so I can go to Zillow and I can do a search on their property. I want to see what they might have seen on Zillow. I want to see what the Google Street View looks like. I want to see the specs of the house, bed and bath, square footage, because that's going to give me some context to the questions I'm going to ask. Okay. So the next thing here, when it comes to establishing expectations, credibility, and trust, for me, this is really important to set yourself up for a good call. Okay. And you can say this in a couple of different ways, but more or less, this isn't where I'm going into my sales pitch and saying why I'm the best fit. This is where I'm basically telling them how I need to spend 5 to 10 minutes with them. That way I can talk with my partners. Okay. Again, taking the pressure off yourself. I can talk with the partners to see what this property qualifies for. And we're just looking to get, a decision from them. That's all that we're asking from them. And if it's something that we can move forward with, great. If not, no big deal, no pressure. We gave it our best shot, right? And then we want to create some urgency. This isn't just a, hey, bring us your deal, shop it around, see what the best is you can get. We want to create some urgency right at the beginning of the call. And I think that's really important because if they feel like this is on the, an option for them, but not forever, then it's going to help bring out that motivation a little bit more. We're now putting the pressure on them. Okay. We're gaining control of that conversation and having them believe they need to sell us on why it's a good fit. Okay. So, hey, I'm glad you called us today. We just sold a property in your area. We have some funds available to buy another one. So hopefully your house is a good fit. With that being said, if we look at your property, come to an agreement on a fair price, you're definitely ready to sell, right? So I personally love creating urgency, saying it with enthusiasm, changing my tone a little bit. Hey, I'm really glad you called us. We just sold another house. We got some money available right now to buy another house. We're looking at 3 others right now. And we're looking to make a decision within the next couple days. So you just called us. This house might be a good fit for us. I'd love to find out more about it and see if we can put something together. If we do come to an agreement, you're definitely ready to sell now, right? So that's just a soft creating some urgency, and it's also doing a little bit of qualification because you're going to get a, oh yeah, sure. Yeah. If we can come to an agreement, I'd love to sell, or no, I'm not ready to sell. Like, what are you offering? You're going to get some responses from that. So I like to start there. So introduction, we get their information. We put up their information. We're looking online. Look, you might not even see that they have it listed. You might see that they had it listed and they took it off. There's going to be all sorts of things, but that's just part of that qualification process, why you want to do that search while you get their information. So we set the expectations, then we dive into motivation. Okay. This should be where the majority of the conversation should be. If you were to give a percentage of how much you should talk about motivation, I mean, it's going to be anywhere from 60 to 80% of the conversation should be about their motivation. You need to find out more details about the house and their timing and different things like that. But this is where the conversation should be. This is where we're qualifying them. And it just starts with the simple question of what has you thinking about selling right now? And we have to understand that they're either motivated or unmotivated. Another way of saying that is they're either moving away from pain, they have a serious problem, or they're moving towards pleasure. You know, it would be nice to sell, not something really I need. It'd be great, you know? And so they're either motivated or unmotivated. And how we respond to what their motivation is going to be determined whether there's pain or pleasure that they're looking for. So if you look at this, right, we want to dig deeper. We want to dig further. So we talked about this on our last call I just mentioned, and a big part of so let's give a real life example. The example we had on our last call, Dylan said a seller had a son living in their property, and he was living there for much longer than she had anticipated, and she just, you know, she wanted to sell. And Dylan said, well, how do I follow up the right way? Like, what is the right way to follow up? And my answer to that was, before you even follow up, you need to understand, you know, the whole follow-up process needs to be an event. There needs to be an event that takes place as to why you are following up. If you're just following up to follow up, then that means you haven't qualified. You haven't dug deep enough into their problem. So when it comes to that seller example, she's got her son living there. I want to find out more about what she wants to do. So tell me, your son's living there. That's really frustrating to you. What happens if you sell the house? Where does he go? You know, what's next for him? Does he have a job? You know, could he go get an apartment? Do you need to sell this house and give him some money so he can move out and just be kind of a problem that's done with you so you can get some money too? I mean, this property's just been sitting here doing nothing for you. You see, we got to ask these kind of questions to dig deeper. If we just say, what's your motivation for selling? You know, what has you thinking about selling right now? Oh, my son's living in the property and I'd like to sell it because he's been living there too long. Oh, okay, great. Well, tell me about the condition of the property. We just missed our biggest opportunity to dive deeper. We have to understand how to solve that problem and what that problem being solved means for the seller. Okay. So that's the kind of thoughts we need to have. And we also need to tie into the emotional aspect of it too. And we're not going to get to that emotional level unless we've asked those more personal questions. Now, another pro tip for you guys is to not ask permission or not to apologize or anything like that. Remember, guys, they're reaching out to us as the professional to solve their problem. So I don't like to say things like, if you don't mind me asking. You know, what's another way of saying that? If you don't mind me asking, sorry for asking this. Like there's a couple different ways you might have heard yourself say that, but we're not looking to ask permission. We want to just assume we can ask any question we want. Same thing with mortgage. Like, let them tell you no, they don't want to give you that information, but we need to assume we can ask any question we want because we need that information to help them solve that problem, right? That's another tip to help you guys through that. When it comes to the condition, we do need to ask some detailed questions. I like to ask detailed questions. This is an area I see, even with my own team, guys, that it is just not done the right way. This is an opportunity when it comes to the condition to not only understand their motivation and where they're at mentally with the property, but it also gives you tools to use in that negotiation. It gives you leverage. So have you remodeled the house in the past 5 years? If the answer is no, well, then it's outdated. Okay, that's the starting point. Does it need any immediate repairs? If no, then, or let's just say if yes, that's another thing to lean on. That's creating leverage. And then I like to pretend I walk through the house. I like to ask details about the bathrooms and give examples to help prompt them. I like to ask about the kitchen, age of the roof, all these things. If you just gloss over this and they say, oh yeah, it's in pretty good condition. Well, it might be in good condition, but if it's outdated, you need to do all the updates to make it HGTV style. And you need to actually say that out loud for them to hear that. And the reason that's so important is because that's essentially going to create the leverage in your negotiation. And if you're not doing that, then the seller is going to assume that their house is in great condition. It's in great shape. Okay. So for me, we got to lean in on the condition. That's going to be what we come back to when we talk about price.
Do you ask them to send you any pictures?
So, well, once we have them describe it, we either ask them to send us pictures, or we'll either have a team member go out and get pictures, or we'll have one of our buyers go out for us and get pictures. Now, when it comes to that kind of process, the majority of the deals we get under contract before we get pictures. And that's just based on the way that they describe the condition and the assumptions we make about the condition. Because look, unless there's fire damage, or it's a hoarder house with just like super neglected wear and tear, whether it's dirty or not, an outdated 70s bathroom needs all the same updates. It doesn't matter how dirty it is. You're going to rip everything out and it's going to cost the same amount of money regardless, unless there's like structural water damage or something. So most of the time we're not getting pictures before we get the contract.
Makes sense.
So when it comes to the occupancy, I'm going to kind of blow through these last parts of the seller script. Occupancy, another opportunity for you guys to really dig deep enough to understand. This is also important because helping to qualify them and how serious they are. If it's owner occupied, well, they got to move, right? Are they willing to move? Are they prepared to move? Have they thought about moving? Where are they moving to? Have they already selected a house? Those are the kind of questions we got to keep unraveling to truly understand how serious they are or are not. When it comes to timing, this is an obvious one, but I just like to prompt them and say, where are you at in the process? Are you looking to sell today, next week, next month? Where are you at with things? And and if they give you another answer other than today, it's your opportunity to say, okay, so you're looking to sell next month. Does that mean, you'd like to have everything wrapped up by next month? Why is that? Do you still need to pack some things? What's preventing you from moving forward today? And if they don't have a good reason, then potentially you could bring that sale closer. Okay, well, let me let you know this. One of the things that's really great about working with us is we're really flexible, and sellers really like it when we close early so that money is in your bank account now, and then we give you additional time to move. Is that something that would work for you? And that just creates that opportunity to make that event of signing a contract now rather than waiting a month. Okay. So that's something to dive in there. Decision makers. This is an area that people miss out on too often as well. They get surprised that the spouse has an opinion and needs to weigh in later. They're surprised that there's a brother that needs to come in and review the contract. You got to dive deep into each and every single question, guys. It's an opportunity for us to create clarity for that seller. Roshan asked earlier, how do we prevent the seller from changing their mind? Well, we try to remove all obstacles. by asking good enough questions through each and every single talking point. And by doing that, we create as least friction for ourselves as possible, right? If you just skip over decision makers, you get surprised that there's a family that all need to make the decision together. Well, they may come in after the fact, after you already signed the contract. We've had that happen on some deals lately. We had $70,000 between two deals, $70,000 fall out of escrow because my team didn't properly qualify the seller who made that spontaneous decision. They were the social personality type. They signed the deal and then they called their son right after, hey, I got good news. And the son was pissed and blew up the deal. Okay. So we've got to make sure we're asking all these questions. Roadblocks. Let's assume you like our offer. We decide to move forward. What's the next thing you have to figure out, if anything? You know, we want to remove all those roadblocks. And then when it comes to price, don't know how you guys are doing it now, but we like to ask them what they feel is a fair price for the property after we re-summarize everything, you know, recap the condition, their situation, all the things that are going to give it good context rather than saying, how much do you want? We ask, what's a fair price? And then on that first call, we're not pressuring ourselves to give an offer. We want to ask and ask and ask, gather that information, and then we want to take it back to the seller, take it back to our partners, whether you have one or not, and see what the property qualifies for. And that just allows you to remove yourself as the one needing to negotiate. That's another way to create that comfort in the seller sharing information from you, because you are working on the same team as the seller, okay? The last thing when it comes to price is you need to give a reaction to it. Even though we're not prepared to give an offer or a number, we still want to react to it. If they give a number that's too high, I mean, are you flexible on that price? It's a lot higher than I was thinking, you know? We want to give a reaction to that number that they give, because that's going to help bring them back down to a more realistic number. Okay. And then going back to expectations, the last thing that we do, and going back to the conversation we had with Dylan and his seller and how to follow up. If we've done a good enough job qualifying the seller, asking all the questions, we're going to know what our next steps look like. We already know what needs to happen next to put a deal together. And let's just say with Dylan's situation, the seller wasn't motivated to sell now today. The problem wasn't big enough. We either need to help that seller realize how we can solve the problem today, or we need to have some meaningful event that happens between now and the next call. Okay. Now the next call after our first one should be our offer call. Okay. Now our offer call, we go through our offer script, we jump back on the phone, we summarize everything, right? Won't read it word for word, but we summarize everything that's going on, everything we talked about. We do now talk about the benefits of going with us. And then when we talk about our offer, we're not actually giving a number. We're not saying what the property qualified for. We're actually coming in and giving a range. So, hey, you know, our partners had a chance to look at the market, did some research on what similar properties in your neighborhood are selling for. It looks like other investors are buying fixer-upper properties like yours from X to Y. Now, we didn't say that was our offer. And so if they, you know, blow up on us, we can say, well, that's not my offer. You know, that's just what other people are buying properties. So, you know, do you think you'd be somewhere close to that? If they say, okay, all right, great. Well, you know, where did you feel like your property fits within that range? Do you feel like yours needs a little bit more work and closer to X, or yours is a better shape closer to Y? And either one of those, anywhere in between there, is a good deal for you, right? You're not going to give numbers where the numbers don't work for you. So that's just a little negotiation hack there and tip and trick. But getting to this point where we make the offer, when it comes to what's next, we're either putting a deal together and sending a contract, or we're setting follow-up next steps. And the next steps have to be really clear. If you just are going to randomly follow up with them, then you didn't do a good enough job asking good enough questions.